Hello there, everybody. And today I'm doing a top 10 Star Wars EU video. So, I don't know if you saw my last Star Wars video about the whole state of the fandom, but we're going to talk about what we love about Star Wars. That being the EU. So, I've not read every book, of course, but what really got me into the EU was the Star Wars Force Unleashed. I did mention that in that video. And of course, I've read the Obi-Wan book and some of the Jango Fett Jr. novels. Those are a lot of fun. And the Clone Wars micro series. But what really got me invested into the EU of Star Wars was, of course, it was like the Lore Master. I lost the train of thought, but like the Lore Master is what really got me into Star Wars Legends. All these facts from Star Wars that came out like all the way back in the 90s. To what started the EU was, I think it was called the Splinters of the Mind's Eye. I've never read that book. I heard that was like the first start of the Star Wars EU, and I heard it's a lot of fun. But what really started it was the Thrawn trilogy, starting with Heirs of the Empire, I think it's called Dark Horizon, I'm pretty sure it's called, and Last Command. And so let's talk about the Star Wars EU characters. So number 10 is probably a one that you don't expect me to talk about at all when it comes to EU Star Wars characters. That being Aline Caldwell. So she was in the Obi-Wan book, and I was actually really invested into her character. So this artwork, all credit goes to the artist. But Aline, she was an interesting character because of her dynamic with Obi-Wan. She clearly had feelings for Obi-Wan, but because Obi-Wan knew he could not share these same feelings because of the Jedi way, but even though the Jedi Order is gone, Obi-Wan still kept his ways. And it felt very sad. Spoilers at the end where Alina, after all the chaos that goes on with the main villain, Oren Gall, she ends up leaving with her family to go pursue her dreams, and she never got to know the truth behind Obi-Wan Kenobi. She never learned that he was a Jedi, and it ends with the two, she realizes that, he lied to her about his ways. And Oren did almost expose Obi-Wan as a Jedi. But Alina was wondering why Obi-Wan could not tag along on their journey of life. But Obi-Wan, because he has to protect Luke Skywalker, that's why she left. That's why he wanted to stay. But Alina left into the galaxy. And who knows what happened after that. Since this is her only appearance, could she come back in the new canon? Or if they did a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi? I don't know. That'd be interesting. But Aline Caldwell, interesting character. Okay, next is Dirge. So Dirge, he was deadly. He is a Jedi. That's his species. And he can regenerate limbs. And it's crazy. Obi-Wan just stabs him through the gut, and he just laughs, and that's the only time we ever hear him speak. And he then later gets blown up, and we think that's the end for him. But no, he appeared in, the comics, and eventually he did die in the comics. It kind of leaves people confused if he dies in that show or not, in case people didn't read the EU. But I guess hardcore Star Wars fans learned of what Dirge's fate was. But anyway, Dirge was really interesting. I love his armor, and he's apparently 1,000 years old. His abilities, his superpowers, yeah, it's over the top. But hey, it's Star Wars. We can have fun with that kind of power in Star Wars. It's not like the Force, where the Force ain't a power. But with Dirge, he can basically turn into the Hulk. But Obi-Wan stopped him like a boss. But maybe I'll have to review the 2003 show one day. But next is Rom Koda. So Rom Koda, easily top Jedi for me. he honestly be an honorable mention. What makes him really unique from other Jedi is like he did not trust the clone troopers at all during the Jedi Order, the Clone Wars. He just was his own. He had his own militia, but it saved his life from Order 66. But he isn't But when he's confronted by Galen Marek, Star Killer, he gets blinded. He first starts off drunk, but then when Galen rescues him, he then joins the rebellion, and that's the last we see of Ron Coda, since he does help Galen, and he did go toe-to-toe with the Emperor for a few minutes, and Vader, but hey, he survived both of them. So yeah, Ron Coda, a badass Jedi for sure. Next is Quinlan Voss. So yeah, people probably remember him in the Clone Wars show, but he's a way different in that show. But in Legends, yeah, he's... What I meant to say is, he's different in the Clone Wars, but in Legends, it's he's different as well. But he does go undercover, since in the new canon, he was supposed to go undercover with Visage Ventress. But Ventress did appear and stuff like the Bad Batch, but that's a different topic. But Quinlan Voss is an interesting character. He started off as an undercover Jedi, and then eventually he falls to the dark side and joins Count Dooku, but he does redeem himself in the end. So that's what makes him a cool Jedi. I remember the Lore Masters video on the topic of Jedi that joined Count Dooku. It's like their own mini Inquisitors group. And they say the Sith have been extinct for a long time, but Dooku's starting his own little Sith cult. But yeah, Quinlan Voss, he does survive Order 66, and eventually he gets a kid. But we don't know what happened to Quinlan after that. We can just assume he lived his life on Kashyyyk. But he did join the Jedi Order, after he turned to Sith. But once he rejoined, Order 66 did happen. And he apparently was supposed to be in the movie Revenge of the Sith, but I guess they cut his part out. It would have been interesting. He does appear as a cameo in The Phantom Menace. But that's a cool story. Quinlan Voss is easily one of the most cool-looking Jedi. I love his hairstyle, his lightsaber. Everything about him is cool. That's Quinlan Voss. And we can't talk about the EU without mentioning Grand Admiral Thrawn. So Grand Admiral Thrawn is now big because of Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka. We finally got his live-action debut in that show, but it all started with the book. Now, I've read Heirs of the Empire, the comic, and I've only read a little bit of the book. But Thrawn, he is someone you do not want to mess with. He is a tactical genius. He was just barely... He almost destroyed the New Republic. But it wasn't until he was assassinated, spoilers, assassinated by his bodyguard Rook, who also appeared in Star Wars Rebels. But Rook died in Rebels long before he was able to get his chance on Thrawn, because the Thrawn trilogy takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and he's the new threat. He is it seems like he's bigger than the Emperor, Vader, but we know who's the bigger bad guys. But Thrawn, he is just as big of a bad guy as to say those two characters are. Definitely. He doesn't have the Force. He's just a genius at what he does. And yeah, you just do not want to mess with him. But I would love to get to the Thrawn trilogy, but from what I learned from the Lore Master Star Wars Explained, Thrawn is easily the best of the best for the EU. It started with the peak what the EU was, for sure. But next on the list is Darth Malgus. So Darth Malgus, easily one of my favorite Sith Lords. And yeah, when I first saw him, I thought he was just a copy of Darth Vader. But he is definitely one of the most powerful Siths ever. He was able to take out 2 Jedi, and he does get his face burnt. And he wears a breather mask. But he just looks so badass in those cinematic cutscenes of Star Wars: The Old Republic. I tried to play the MMR, but I just could not figure out a way to get it. If you know how to, you can comment it below. But Darth Malgus is easily the highlight of Star Wars: The Old Republic. And he was able to also get into a room full of Jedi with a bunch of Sith attacking each other, and he just killed a whole bunch of them. That's how badass he is. But I know there's characters like Darth Bane, but to be honest, I didn't really know much about Darth Bane other from what I learned online. But maybe this list could not be. Well, I'll get that to the end. But maybe this list could not be fair because only the knowledge I know about the EU. But anyway, next is Mara Jade. I think a lot of us love Mara Jade, even though George Lucas himself does not like Mara Jade, but that's okay. But Mara Jade is easily one of the coolest, I guess, anti-heroes, Jedi, or whatever you want to call her. She started off as just she lost her. I don't know if she lost her family, but she eventually became the Emperor's hand, and she was an assassin for Palpatine. But once he died, she went after Luke Skywalker, and the two were at rivals at first in the Thrawn trilogy. But eventually, Mara Jade met up with Luke after they realized they're on the same side, and she helped defeat Luke Skywalker's clone, and the space wizard dude, Jorah Sabaoth. She killed the clone in him, and eventually the two got made up, and the two got married. And yeah, George Lucas was against it, but hey, Luke Skywalker, he can need some love in his life, and he became his long-term wife until, unfortunately, spoilers, she was murdered by Jacen Solo. It's just like how Kylo Ren killed Han Solo. I can see those similarities. But Mara Jade was easily one of the coolest and most hottest Jedi out there, and I love her purple lightsaber. And she apparently has multiple lightsabers. Pink, blue, purple, and you don't believe me? Play the Star Wars Force Unleashed arcade mode. You can play as Mara Jade, and she, for some reason, has a blue lightsaber. Weird nitpick, I know, but Mara Jade was a cool character, and I love to check her character out more. So, that being said, next is probably one of my favorite clone troopers of all time, Captain Fordo. So Captain Fordo is from the Clone Wars Micro series, and he is one of the most badass clones ever. He took out a bunch of droids at ease, and he's just keeps on going at it. But he's known for not really talking much in the show, since, I don't know, most of the characters in that show, they didn't really talk. But Captain Fordo was so cool. He even took a stance at Dirge when he shocked him to death. But we don't know Captain Fordo's fate. But this is my theory. Literally a Star Wars theory. But if you watch the end of the Micro series where Mace Windu gets his ship shot down, I think we do see Fordo in that ship. Well, we don't know if Fordo survived that crash, but it leads me to think Fordo died in that crash. But it'd be a super bummer if Captain Fordo committed Order 66, but in the Legends version of Order 66, it wasn't the inhibitor chip. It was just they were just following orders. And that's what makes it bummer. They just makes the clones cold-hearted soldiers. That's why I love the Clone Wars, because they fleshed out the clones. They make them seem more human. It made them have good relationships with each other, the Jedi, and it makes Order 66 more tragic because they're in some mind control. I'm going off topic, but Captain Fordo, easily my favorite clone trooper. Love his armor, love that voice, and I'd love to see him in, I guess if they featured him in Star Wars some way, but they've done a lot of Clone Wars content, and we know who the star is for Clone Troopers is Captain Rex. But Captain Fordo, easily a most memorable clone for me. And I think number 2 would have to be Darth Revan. So Darth Revan, I love Darth Revan. I love his mask. He's a Mandalorian Jedi turned Sith. He starts off as a Sith. He was a Jedi at first, Mandalorian. He fought in the Mandalorian Wars. But eventually, after an attack by Bastila Shan, she's also a badass Jedi, she took out Darth Revan, and the Jedi Order changed his memories. And when you play Knights of the Old Republic, you are revealed to be Revan, and that is super cool. And then you either have to choose to be the good guy or the bad guy. But in the canon for the Legends timeline for this character, yeah, you choose to be good. But then eventually Revan does become bad. And I think he does redeem himself again. And he dies. So it's a very cool Darth Revan. People like the Lore Master, the people voted for Darth Revan more than Darth Vader, and I was like, whoa. But yeah, I love Darth Revan, easily a top Sith for me, and Knights of the Old Republic was easily my favorite Star Wars game. It is the most different Star Wars game you can ever play. But as for the number 1 Star Wars EU character, that is Galen Marek, Starkiller. Mentioned him earlier. I love this character. I love playing him as in The Force Unleashed. It was my first Star Wars video game besides the Star Wars Complete Saga. But The Force Unleashed is easily one of the more fun games. And a lot of people say Galen Marek is too overpowered. Yeah, he is. But then again, they're making a game about you playing as an over-the-top, like, I guess, secret apprentice, like Jedi, Sith. And yeah, you're the apprentice of Darth Vader, and that's super awesome. And a lot of people some people don't even like The Force Unleashed. It's a hot take, but to me, I love The Force Unleashed. And I'd love to review it, but Galen Marek, he starts off as a confused, I guess, Sith assassin. He starts just doing Darth Vader's dirty work, killing Jedi. He managed to kill Shaak Ti, Kazan Paratus, and it was super wild. But after Vader betrays him, he goes to becoming a Jedi, and he started the rebellion with the help of Bail Organa, all the other senators. He even met Princess Leia, which is cool. But eventually, he does sacrifice. Spoilers, he sacrifices himself against Darth Sidious after the rebels were captured. He defeats Vader, and he just brutally tears apart Vader. It's more damage than what Luke did or Vader's sacrifice. It's just as big. It's like when Anakin became Darth Vader. But Galen Marek almost destroyed the Emperor. He honestly could have... New Hope could have been prevented because of Galen Marek, but because of plot armor, Palpatine and Vader survived. But Galen was brought back through a Starkiller clone, and that's a different story. But Starkiller is is a different character. But I guess because the game was super popular, that's why they wanted to do a sequel. So they're like, so how are we gonna bring back Galen Marek? So let's just clone him. So yeah, I have some issues with Force Unleashed too. Maybe I'll get into that one day, but Galen Marek is easily a top Star Wars character for me, for the EU. So that's my list for top 10 EU Star Wars characters. Now, I could do the new canon, if that's not too controversial. But if you'd like me to, comment it below. But anyway, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.